researchers, debaters and debunkers. Although it's not so clear in this view from the phone camera, it's a beautiful, I think almost full moon, probably full moon tomorrow. And there's a lovely halo there with this kind of mackerel sky. And of course, you know, the enigmatic nature of the moon means that while I'm here in Phuket looking up at this moon as it's going to go overhead, there could be someone somewhere else, hundreds or thousands of miles away, also seeing the clouds lit by the moon above them. And it is, you know, the more you think about it, the more ridiculous it is that at some point, high blood is thicker than water. That you know, we've. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm on the Wi-Fi here. Should be. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite insane, isn't it? The moon really is, and the sun, an enigmatic entity. Yeah, to think that we went up there, and it's funny, isn't it? We often hear that we, as if these people did this on the behalf of humanity to go to the moon. But you look at how bright that thing is, and you compare it to the photographs of people on the moon's surface, which of course is an impossibility in itself, because if you think about how or where the Earth should be in a picture taken from the moon, there is no way that you would ever get an Earth rise, because of course the moon is always facing the Earth. So, oh hi, we've got a few more people coming in. My glass. Yeah, sorry, wow, it's either my glass, just hang on, just let me wipe my glasses. Maybe my eyesight's getting worse and worse and worse. Years of staring at computer screens in the newsroom has, right, who we got? Andres, hi. Yeah, I'd love to know what she actually is. Yes, I know, me too. You know, in fact, I was wondering, it's just, obviously it's just an idea, it's not a claim, it's just an idea, but you know, when we saw the eclipse, and if it's not the moon going in front of the sun, then maybe it's possibly, you know, if we're talking about Rahu being this dark body, maybe it's Rahu that creates the shadow on the moon and gives the moon its phases, so it's always there. And I wonder if that's the point where the sun is going between Rahu and the moon. You know, so yeah, another object. Yeah, that's right. So, in fact, going through the footage I took of the eclipse, obviously it's very difficult to tell because I was looking through welder's glass, but you know, it does seem to be some kind of body with it seemed to have some lines on it, but I don't know if that's just an artifact of the camera, or whether we're actually seeing some kind of form or something on that body. Okay, someone's got a message for me here. Tony, hi. Hi everyone. Did you... From Plain Truth. Did you learn your photography skills from Plain Truth? Thanks for all your work. Okay. Thanks, yeah, thank you. Well, no, it's a labour of love, isn't it? You know, it really is. And this whole thing, I mean, it's interesting. I've just been recently getting a flood of comments on a video I did about a year ago. But it was just one of those realizations that is just about the whole gravity thing. I put a can on a tabletop and then tilted the table, and this occurred to me. You know, it's so simple. It's funny when you present these really simple, obvious things, it sends the globies absolutely nuts, and they of course think it's really stupid. But it was after flying in an aircraft going to Malaysia, and obviously you don't get that high. But just looking out of the window, maybe at about 20,000 feet or so, and of course, you know, if we are to go with the premise that the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, I was looking out the window. I was thinking, you know, just imagine if the Earth was actually doing that. You'd just collide. You would just smack into the Earth. In a very short time. There is just no way we could ever do anything on or above this Earth. It is absolutely insane. You know, once you get over it, once you get over the beliefs that we've been given, the indoctrination, it's so laughable because it's, you know, there is nothing, absolutely nothing in any observation or any scientific measurement, nothing whatsoever that would have us assume or believe that we are on a rotating globe. Nothing whatsoever. Apart from, of course, this imaginary globe created out of, well, what is it? What is the globe? It's basically two azimuthal projections stuck together. One centered on the North Pole and one centered on the assumed South Pole. Hi. It's very difficult to see who's actually coming in here. I can't see who's actually, but okay, hi, whoever that is. Yeah, you know, that's all the globe is. It's two azimuthal maps stuck together. That's all it is. And of course, the azimuth is basically, it's really quite simple because obviously, you know, because of perspective, with things getting smaller in the distance, of course, when you put that onto a map representing you as the central location on that map, as the azimuth, then of course, everything's going to get wider and wider on that map, simply because as you look further into the distance, everything's getting smaller and smaller. So, for example, you just turn 1 arc second or 1 arc minute, but over distance, that is going to turn into a wider and wider and wider angle, isn't it? You know, so that's all it is. I've never seen the moon during the day as much as the last year. Well, that's interesting, probably because you start looking, don't you? I remember when I was a kid, just, you know, kind of occasionally noticing, oh, the moon's out in the daytime. But actually, it's there for almost half the month in the daytime. What's that one? Look, blood-thick and water. Look for a large shaded type object. 2 layers of scattered clouds help me to see it. Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah. We'll do that. Yeah. So, yeah, the daytime moon. And you know, look at these clouds. One thing to think about, you know, I've seen the argument come up recently about, again, over and over again, clouds being lit from the bottom. Absolutely ridiculous, because what you have here is these clouds, which I don't know how high they are, but they are somewhat transparent. So, of course, you know, you can see the moon through them. So, of course, if it's a sunset, then the sun goes off into the distance and we get to the edge of the spectrum of the sun, hence we get the purples and the reds, etc. And so what's actually happening is when you see the clouds change color at sunset, it's because they are almost transparent. They are light, wispy clouds that the light is passing through. And of course, you get the thicker clouds that hold more rainwater, and they are grey, and they block the sun, the cumulus clouds. So, it's just a case of these observations, as someone said just now, that noticing the moon. God, this is what's so thrilling about this whole adventure, is when you really look at it with fresh eyes and we detach from this spinning ball belief. It is an adventure because it's all over again. We are looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, fresh perspective, and it's an amazing thing. But you've got all these people who would love to just hold us back, and they create the most ridiculous straw man arguments, to hold on to this belief. And I'm sure they know they're lying. I'm sure they know they're making stuff up. Of course, it's and it's a sign of the ego, isn't it? Because of course we all just went along with the whole globe thing for a large part. But then once it was pointed out to us that sunrises, sunsets are perspective, and the clouds meet the horizon because of perspective, you're like, you slap your forehead and you go, of course. And if you're of kind of like a sound, balanced, open mind, then you accept that, I was bamboozled. I was led to believe something that simply isn't true, and we kind of accept that. And this is growing. This is part of growing up. This is part of maturity. But imagine sticking to the same old belief all your life, which of course many people will do until the day they die, and in that way they never learn anything. But in my mind, we are here to learn, and the day we stop learning and start sticking to a certain belief without any proof, and it's just a faith, then you've just given up. You're losing out. Fatah is saying impossible for the moon to be 238,000 miles away because we see the large lunar crater Tycho with the naked eye. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, welcome to the flat 20s. Yeah, and of course another thing, if you think about the way these globies take these observations, if you do that and you're looking down, let's just go over here, and you're looking down at the horizon, then basically, okay, you imagine me on the equator now. This would assume that me looking straight ahead now means that I am looking down. Now, if I'm on the side of a ball Earth, I'm suddenly looking down at this 90-degree angle, and it would have to be that here I'm looking straight ahead out from the side of the ball. But level like this for someone on the equator becomes down into the depths of outer space. I mean, it is just insane. It is absolutely insane. And yeah, okay, I'm sorry I'm not reading your chats in time, blood is thick in the water, but I'm sure you're making some, and like you say, it's your opinion, and we're all entitled to that, and I think that's great. We can't get any answers unless we explore and have ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. We just know by now that obviously sticking to a certain belief, and one that defies physics, and one that goes against our observations, is insane. It is a mark of insanity, and I don't care how many people come along and assume that I'm a. And it's funny, of course, you do some kind of earthbound experiments, and if you have this kind of discourse or argument with a globie, they. You ask about curvature and things like that, and measurable proof, and they immediately jump to this kind of external view of the Earth, and it's all about, because that's what this whole globe cult is, isn't it? It's about placing the Earth in space. Of course, space being a vacuum and all that, that's just an extension of the eye. It's the only way that they can have all these spinning balls going around endlessly without any friction. Again, it's just an abstract concept. It's not something that was ever proven. It's just like, okay, well, we've worked out that if we don't have any resistance to anything, then we can imagine that the space is a vacuum. And that's how everything just carries on going around. And again, this idea that you drop something and that somehow defines and explains or proves the workings of the universe is so dumbed down. It's so simple. These gimps should be bloody ashamed of themselves for not being able to think beyond that. But they come along and they attack us for questioning it, and I just laugh because it's so simple. It's such a simple and illogical and assumptive, presumptuous view. Yeah, hi. I'm sorry. Who's that just come into the chat? I can't see. I'm really sorry. I can't see who that is. But Moon Up. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's like. Yeah. Again, it's a shame you can't I can't convey the real. I mean, there's a lovely halo going on. The moon is very clear, and again, this local light that I'm getting. It's very esoteric in its nature. We've got no answers. We've got, and this is it, isn't it? We have no idea. We have no idea. So we got these people claiming to know. It always, again, come with any argument about the shape of the Earth jumps to this external reference frame, imagining the Earth in space. And of course, the assumption that the Earth is another planet. And it's no wonder they teach and preach it to us from an early age. In fact, it's disgusting the way it's done. This might, and in our formative years, before we even got actually even by 5 or 6 years old, we've actually got a pretty firm grasp on reality. We can do things like balance blocks. We understand physics. We understand how our eyes and work, and we can coordinate things. We're actually doing pretty well by the time we're 5 or 6 years old. We've got a good handle on the way things are without having to, we might not know the language that is used. And of course, that's what, again, you often get these people coming in because they know physics and they can do mathematics and they know the language of physics. And this is the major thing that we have to get over, that, the idea of the Earth being a spinning ball going around the sun and the moon going around the Earth, blah, 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 is science, is of course wrong. It's the wrong connection to make there. It's 6 a.m. for you, wherever you are. I can't read your name, but what's that flare saying? Moon may contain, what's that? The metal mercury. Oh, I've lost your chat. It's gone up too quick. I'll get back to those chats later. It's nice to have you all partaking. Yeah, but again, if you really think about any observation we make of the moon, and you try to kind of perceive, for example, I'm looking up at the moon at, say, something like 45 degrees at the moment, and of course I'm seeing the face of the moon just like anyone else on the Earth, and it's there above the clouds. When you really try to place it in some kind of model, it really doesn't make sense because of its subjective and objective esoteric nature. It is something that we all see, and again, being here on the equator, for example, of course, it's very hot. You could say that the sun is close, and if you go north or south of the equator, then it gets cooler. So, objectively, you could say that the sun and the moon are somewhere above the equator. And subjectively we experience less light or less warmth from them, or cold from the moon. But still, if you actually apply some cognitive, thinking and lateral thinking to it, you really cannot place the sun and the moon anywhere in particular. And of course, this is another thing that we get from the anti-flat earthers is they love to push for some numbers. They say, well, tell me how far away it is, tell me how big it is. And you try to explain that it's not something, this is part of the realization, you can't measure it. And so you can't put a number on it, you can't put a distance or a size. But of course, they demand this, and the reason they demand it is because then they want to be able to hold you to that. It's kind of it's one way they try to catch the flat earther out. They push for explain this, explain that, give me some numbers. But of course, this is because we've been given numbers all along that have never ever been proven. And just, to try to get across to someone the difference between a calculation and a measurement. And if you want to talk about science, the difference between science and abstract mathematics, of course, calculations can be made and they can be very accurate. But there's a huge difference between making a calculation and making a physical measurement. But you can't even get to that kind of point of discussion with someone who is against flat Earth. It is, and of course, when we see this, we might get angry, we might get frustrated, we might start swearing and stuff, and that's simply because it's frustrating to deal with someone who is being dishonest with you and dishonest with themselves. You can handle someone being dishonest with you, but when someone's dishonest with themselves and you can see it so clearly, that's what's frustrating. That's what winds me up. So again, this is why this is a labor of love. You see these people, lying to themselves and then lying to other people, and of course they feel safe because they have consensus on their side. And of course, there is no bigger consensus than the idea that we went to the moon. And of course, I think we would be living in a very different situation if it was admitted at some point in the 60s that we can't get to the moon. And then, the whole thing would be, I think, rather than giving us this idea that we've, achieved it. What's that saying? Moon can't be landed upon. Yeah, inaccessible to humans within the Van Allen radiation belt. Okay. Oh, firework going off. No idea why. Yeah. But this local light is funny, isn't it? Because, over here it gets dark. But again, someone could be looking at the moon 1,000 miles away from here and seeing the same thing. They would see their local clouds lit up, and that in itself, that just tells us straight off that you're a fool if you want to try and explain that as some kind of objective reality. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you, and it's been a while since doing some flat Earth stuff. There's a few vids in the pipeline. I've been doing some actual moon tracking on timeanddate.com, and the way that the moon basically spirals throughout the year is another giveaway that it's certainly not in some kind of tidally locked orbit. Yeah. So what's that one? It's a CGI cardboard. Yeah. Now again, I was thinking about these images that people get of the ISS crossing the moon or the sun. It's difficult to explain, but again, if you think about any observation of that made by anyone, I mean, I don't deny that there's probably something up there whizzing around, but I seriously doubt there are people on it. It's but when you, the way there's never any change in the angle at which you view it from, which there should be. So if you go and have a look at all these photographs or film that people have got of the ISS crossing the moon or crossing in front of the sun, if you compare all those and you think about the angle at which we're seeing the ISS, then it is above. It can only be above us. It is not off to the side on some globe Earth. It's not, and of course, yeah, it could be a balloon, who knows. But to be honest, I think that actually if something's light enough, you think about this, up in the stratosphere, apparently the winds whiz around at about, something like 250 miles an hour or kilometers an hour. It goes quite fast. So if you push, it's just like if you let anything out in the wind, if you push it along fast enough and it's light enough, like those CubeSats, for example, if you dropped a CubeSat into a wind that's going 250 miles an hour, then that wind will carry it along. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. It won't, yeah.
Back key, please.
Oh, right, back key. Yeah. Oh, no, it must be in my jeans in the room. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, too fast, up to 500 miles an hour. Yeah, so again, the science is there that is absolutely fine to have things whizzing about above. If it's in the stratosphere, and again, if you go and look, I had an argument the other day with someone about the Kármán line. And of course, the Kármán line is just this arbitrary 100-mile or 100-kilometer point above the surface, above sea level, which is just kind of like, it's more legalese than anything physical. But in fact, NASA and the US Air Force consider anything above 50 miles high as being space. So this selfie satellite, the Samsung selfie satellite balloon, was up there, and it was in the stratosphere. So it was about, I think it was about 69,000 feet up. And so, of course, they considered that as being in space. And they called it a satellite. And if NASA's Echo 1 balloon, that was called a satellite. Oh, just my daughter's just... It's all right. Where are you off to?
Up your bum.
Up my bum. Up your bum. Up your bum. All right, hang on.
Going to the moon.
Going to the moon.
Yes, I'm walking up. I'm walking on the moon.
I just shut the gate. Dog doesn't get out. You all right? Manage? Yeah. All right, just a minute. Just deal with this domestic stuff.
Hi.
All right, see ya. Out of the gun. The dog's still there. Where was I? Yeah, so, it's funny because this whole, they're not lying. They're not lying when they talk about satellites in space, because a balloon is a satellite. The definition of a satellite is just a smaller body away from the bigger one, just like you have a satellite city or whatever. So from the start, NASA has been referring to balloons as satellites. And they sent this balloon up, apparently, Echo 1, and okay, let's go with it as being a truth, that this balloon stayed up for several months, and as it went overhead, they were able to bounce signals off it, and even radio and TV signals. And of course, they sent it up in a rocket, and it was inflated up there. So let's say it went higher than the stratosphere. But whatever, I mean, it's, the physics, it's fine. It's fine, it works fine, that it gets to a point, if it's a strong enough balloon, it won't blow up, it'll just hold its position and get blown around in these winds, or the ether, whatever you want to call it, and sure, you can transmit and receive signals from it. absolutely fine. So why change the technology that works? And I must be honest, satellites were the last hurdle for me when it came to flat Earth. But of course, we all assume that a satellite, when they say satellite, we assume that it's going around the ball Earth. But really, when they talk about satellites in space, they're talking about balloons that can be anything above 50 miles up. That's it. And that's according to NASA. NASA and the US Air Force say that, this is half the distance to the Kármán line is already being referred to as space. So this is it, a U-2 pilot, or even if the shuttle, if there's a pilot on the shuttle and they go up 50 miles, they're not lying when they come back down and say, yeah, I've been to space. Because the language has already been there and it's already been defined for them as being, 50 miles up is space already. And so this is something we have to really, again, use our discernment with. But trying to get this point across to these hard-headed globe nonces is very difficult. And again, this is why we get frustrated, because even when you point out the language that's being used by the institutions that are telling us these stories, then they start making, you never, ever get a compromise with these guys. They will never say, oh, okay, fair enough point. That's the thing, because you can tell straight away, can't you? They come along and they are never, ever, ever in the frame of mind to compromise. And I think that's because they come along knowing that any kind of leeway is a slippery slope to accepting and admitting and surrendering to the obvious. Yeah. Oh, another thing. There's an aeroplane going on. Another thing, while I'm on the subject, if you think about jet aircraft and the fact that gyros make things lighter, well, this is one way that I theorize that jet aircraft can stay up there for so long, is because once they've got those turbines spinning, they act like gyros. So they actually make the aircraft much, much lighter. So it doesn't matter, as long as the aircraft is strong enough, with the wings and everything, you could put as many passengers on, you can make it as big as you like, you can put as much fuel or as little fuel as you want, but those jet engines spinning away are like two gyros that give it the lift. So all you need is the thrust and, of course, the aerofoil wings to kind of, help it sail through the air, and away you go. I mean, so I'm thinking that, the fact that the jet engines are acting like gyros is one way that kind of makes the aircraft actually much, much lighter than its kind of apparent weight, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I'm sure I'm not saying anything original. I'm sure we've all had these thoughts, but it's nice to just get it out there and share these ideas, because we are being bombarded by numbskulls and idiots displaying massive Dunning-Kruger. They love to, pretend, and you just see it all the time. They just assume that we're stupid. In fact, I noticed that quite a few Globe channels thought that flat Earth researchers would just ignore the eclipse. Even after 5 years, they are still of the opinion that we would just ignore this stuff, rather than, just looking at these things, making observations, and then drawing alternative conclusions from them. And so to watch these guys talk amongst themselves is just very telling of their mentality and fear. And of course, the atheist agenda fits very, very nicely with it. Yeah. what have we got? TP, hi. Moon, not a solid object if sky can't be seen through it, yeah. And yeah, I mean, this whole Trump thing, don't worry about it. Let them do it. Let them fire off their missiles and have their little saber rattling and stuff. Don't let it, it's, you know, it's a distraction. Hey, if people, you know, unfortunately people might die and stuff, I don't know. But you know, I've given up following that kind of crap, really, you know, because we know they're just puppets. We know they're just playing out this agenda, and ultimately, what they cannot take from us is our minds, and that's what's been enslaved. Our minds have been enslaved, but we're all taking them back. Hi TP. Yeah, that's the thing, you know. So let them do what they want. This Earth has always been here, will always be here. You know, I'm sorry, but you know, a few fires in Australia, on the grand scale of it, it's a blip on the radar. You know, the wars and stuff. I mean, it's nice to see that at least there seem to be a few more people waking up to it, and kind of. But you know, we know that protesting in the streets doesn't do anything. Millions of people protested before the Iraq invasion, the invasion of a sovereign nation. Millions of people took to the streets. Did it make a difference? No. As long as they kind of, you know, prettied it up and made a speech in Parliament that kind of fitted, you know, just to kind of make the excuses, they just went along and did it, you know. So, and when you're awake to this, when you are in tune with the earth, then, you know, count yourself lucky, because we are not going to get drawn in to these situations, and we're not going to end up in those places where the shit's going to hit the fan, you know. So it might sound callous, it might sound evil, but it's up to each and every one of us to wake up. And when we're awake and we can see, then we can see the danger, just like you know, a prey can see the predator, and we are aware of the predators. And you know, so what's that? 200 people arrested in US for what's that? Fire in Oz for fire starting. Okay, right. Yeah. And this is it, you know, when you make the connections, when you know, and this is what we mean by do your research. We all do it. We all look at the stories, and then we make the connections, and we can see, you know, join the dots and whatever it might be. That's what you mean by do your research. And that doesn't mean Googling something and then taking the first two stories that appear. You've really got to knuckle down and do your research. And of course, we don't get to these simplistic realizations without going down the rabbit hole, doing the dot connecting, doing the research. And we all, you know, we all know what we mean by that, because we've gone down that rabbit hole, and yeah, maybe taken some wrong turns and things sometimes, but that's all good, because it's like a maze, isn't it? You know, you get to a dead end and then you turn around and go back again. You know, so it's all good. But if you're just going to sit on your laurels and pretend there's no maze or no labyrinth or no rabbit hole to go down, then of course that is the ultimate ignorance. So, you know, hats off to all of you out there who got the real balls, not imaginary balls, to get out there and just investigate, research, and be honest with ourselves. That is probably the most important thing, and it's very, very frightening. It's very frightening when we're honest with ourselves. I personally battle with it all the time, you know. I mean, but that's part of the mission. That's part of the journey. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's difficult to kind of look at the chat right now, but I will go back through it when we're done. So yeah, thanks, Flat Earth. Yeah, you know, this isn't difficult. I mean, to be honest, it's really nice to to know that you're all around and we are connected in that sense that we are not swayed by any particular beliefs, or we are open to discussion and discourse and learning and exploring. And sure, as we go on, we formulate opinions, and then, you know, other people come along with other observations or ideas and experiences, and we can take that on board, and that's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful what we're able to do with the tech. And of course, this is funny as well. I mean, of course, you get your baller who will find it incredulous that someone, a flat earther, can be using tech to record the moon on his phone, using Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Science, real physics, but then, you know, deny that the Earth is a globe. But of course, they're assuming that that's science. And it's not. It's just an abstract mathematical concept. So, you know, actually, my plan tonight was to get home and I do want to do a video which demonstrates how perspective works, and then this angle of 23.4 degrees. But I saw this moon, and I thought it was a lovely opportunity to share that with you all, and just a reminder that of the esoteric nature of the moon and the sun. And personally, I don't mind if we don't ever have any answers, because it is part of the big cosmic clock in the sky. It has a job to do, just like the trees here have a job to do in this intelligent creation. The problem we have is we don't know what our job is on this earth. Everything else has a job to do, and it doesn't really think about it. You know, the tree is growing here. There's the banana trees over there that's doing its thing. You know, the stars are doing their thing, and they have a job to do. There's a reason for their existence, and we might not have the knowledge or the, you know, to know why they're there. Sure, we can talk about science and mathematics because we can track them. You know, and that, you know, you can scientifically make those observations and predictions, but that's all we can do. That is all we can do. Yeah. So, you know. Anyway, so I'm gonna sign out now, and thanks a lot for coming along. Short and sweet. But I hope this has been some food for thought, and I'm looking forward to just going back through the chats and, you know, chatting and seeing what was actually said, and look forward to anyone who wants to comment as well. So thank you very much, and we'll catch up soon. Take care. Cheers.